Welcome to the fifth and last book of Level 1. I totally read these in school club. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Fun retelling of the classic novel by Lewis Carroll. Wonderland. Weird vibes. Epic adventures. Part 1. Alice's boredom and the rabbit hole plunge. We open on a sunny afternoon with Alice, a curious kid who's maybe 7 or so, hanging with her sister by a riverbank. The sister's reading some boring old book without pictures or conversations, and Alice is like, ugh, kill me now, this is so dull. She's half asleep, wondering if it's even worth picking daisies or, scrolling through her phone if she had one, which she doesn't, because Victorian times. Suddenly, a white rabbit jogs by in a waistcoat, muttering about being late and checking a pocket watch. Yes, a talking rabbit with a watch. Alice's day just got interesting. She's like, wait, what the? Curiosity piqued. She dashes after him, and next thing you know, she sees the rabbit pop down a rabbit hole under a hedge. Alice, not known for caution, is all, why not, and plunges in headfirst. The rabbit hole is not your average bunny burrow. It's more like a cosmic vortex. Alice goes into free fall, drifting past shelves, maps, jars of marmalade, which she tries to grab but fails. She wonders if she'll fall right through the earth and pop out in New Zealand or some random place. She even tries to recall her geography lessons, but let's be real, she's losing her mind. Eventually, the fall ends gently, because Wonderland physics apparently, and she lands in a hallway. So here's the hallway. It's lined with locked doors. Alice sees a glass table with a teeny key. She tries it on all the big doors, no luck. But then she spots a pint-sized door hidden behind a curtain. Bingo! The key fits, revealing a passage to a glorious garden. Problem: she's way too big to squeeze through that tiny door. Then she notices a bottle labeled, "Drink Me." In real life, we'd call that suspicious. But this is Wonderland, so obviously she drinks it. Tastes like a weird cocktail of flavors, like cherry pie, custard, pineapple, roast turkey, toffee, but no poison, apparently. She shrinks down to the size of a doll. Now she can waltz through that door, right? Nope. She left the key on top of the table, which is now a skyscraper to her. Dang it. She spots a cake labeled "Eat Me," because that's normal, and thinks this might fix things. She munches it, hoping she'll shoot up to the right height to grab the key. But the story's only just begun, so you can bet it's about to get way more complicated. Welcome to Wonderland, where the laws of physics, logic, and sense all took a gap year. Alice has no idea what's next, just that life's about to get real trippy. Part 2. Size Shenanigans and the Pool of Tears. Alice's size is basically on randomized mode. After nibbling that Eat-A-Me's cake, she grows crazy tall, nearly brushing the ceiling. She's like, how do I even function at this height? She grabs the key off the table, but now she's too giant to fit through the little door. Classic out of the frying pan into the fire situation. She gets frustrated and starts crying. Except she's a giant now, so her tears form an actual pool of tears that floods the hallway. Suddenly, the white rabbit scampers by again, still moaning about how late he is, calling for the Duchess. He's so frantic he drops his fan and gloves. Alice tries to approach for help, but he freaks out and bails. Alice picks up the fan thinking, maybe this will cool me down. But as she fans herself, she shrinks again. Did the fan have some magic vibe? She's not sure, but next thing she's back to tiny size, except now she's swimming in her own giant tear puddle. Yikes. Now we have a miniature ocean, basically. Alice is dog paddling around, bumping into random creatures also stuck in there, like a mouse. She's all, hey, Mr. Mouse. But she tries making polite small talk and ends up mentioning her cat, which is like the worst possible topic to a mouse. The mouse is like, nope, and tries to flee. She's constantly messing up socially in Wonderland. Anyway, more creatures join the watery mess. A duck, a dodo, a lory, and an eaglet. They all paddle ashore, forming a soggy group on the bank. Now they're all cold and cranky. The dodo suggests a caucus race to get dry, some bizarre running around in circles event with no real rules or winner. The dodo eventually declares everyone the winner and demands prizes. Alice hands out candy from her pockets. She's left with nothing for herself, so the dodo gives her her own thimble. Weird flex, but okay. After that fiasco, the mouse tries telling a dull, dry story to dry them off. It's a pun-laced fiasco that confuses everyone. People keep interrupting. Meanwhile, the white rabbit dashes past again, looking for his gloves and fan, which Alice has. She tries to help, but the rabbit mistakes her for his maid, Mary, and orders her to run to his house for more. Confused, Alice thinks, should I correct him? But curiosity and maybe politeness has her going along. So she's off to the rabbit's place, still reeling from all these size changes and random encounters. She hasn't even made it to that pretty garden yet. Wonderland is basically one giant detour. Part 3. More size drama at the White Rabbit's house. Alice arrives at the White Rabbit's house labeled W Rabbit on the door. Inside, she finds a room with a table. There's a bottle that doesn't say drink me this time, but Alice is like, it's Wonderland. So she takes a sip. Instantly, she balloons in size, filling up the entire room. She's stuck, arms and legs poking out the windows, her foot jammed in the fireplace. She can't move. Great job, Alice. Outside, the rabbit's losing his mind, yelling for Mary and to open the door. He recruits help from a friend, Bill the lizard, who's supposed to go down the chimney to see what's up. But Bill basically gets kicked out by Alice's giant foot. The rabbit's next plan? Toss pebbles through the window. Those pebbles magically turn into little cakes on the floor. Alice, in a desperate Rolo move, eats one. Boom, shrinks down again. She's free, but now she's tiny once more. She hightails it out the door before the rabbit catches her. Fleeing into the woods, Alice's mood is a cosmic roller coaster. She's gone from huge to tiny to huge to tiny. She's thinking, where's the instruction manual for Wonderland's random potions? She hopes to find that lovely garden from the tiny door. Instead, she stumbles upon a giant mushroom with a caterpillar chilling on top, smoking a hookah. Typical Wonderland scene. The caterpillar is cool, calm, and about zero help. He's basically, who are you? Like, a philosophical question. Alice is flustered. She tries to explain she's changed size so many times she's not sure who she is anymore. The caterpillar suggests reciting poems to prove her identity. She messes up the lines, humiliating. He's unimpressed. Then he cryptically says, one side of the mushroom makes you taller, the other side makes you shorter, before sliding away. Alice figures out the mushroom must be the new growth hack. She breaks off 2 pieces. Nibble from the right side, shrink. Nibble from the left side, grow. She tries a piece, shrinks so small she's bug-sized. She tries the other, grows so tall birds think she's a serpent. After some comedic trial and error, she manages to get herself to a normal height, tucking pieces of the mushroom into her pockets for future size adjustments. She's learning the system, albeit painfully. Now she's back on track, presumably, to find that garden. But with Wonderland's random characters, like philosophical caterpillars and panicked rabbits, there's no telling what's next. One thing's sure, the normal rules don't apply. She's stuck in a place where identity, size, and logic shift at every turn. Part 4. The Duchess and the Cheshire Cat. Armed with her mushroom pieces to mod her height as needed, Alice wanders until she sees a little house. She's worried she might again be too big, so she nibbles one side of the mushroom and shrinks to child size. She enters the house, which belongs to the Duchess. Inside is utter chaos. A crying baby, pots and pans flying, and a cook dumping way too much pepper in a soup. Everyone's sneezing like crazy. The Duchess is bouncing the baby roughly, and a grinning Cheshire cat lounges around. The Duchess is not in a Mother of the Year mood. She's snapping at Alice, who's just trying not to get beamed by flying cookware. The cook is randomly throwing dishes. The baby's howling in a swirl of pepper-laden air. Alice is all, should I call child services? Then the Duchess gets bored and shoves the baby at Alice, like, here, you hold it, and leaves to play croquet with the queen. Alice tries to comfort the baby, stepping outside for fresh air. Except the baby starts morphing into a pig. She's like, nope, that's a pig baby. She sets it down, and it trots off into the woods. Because sure, pig baby transformations are normal in Wonderland. Alice can only shrug. Then she encounters the Cheshire Cat again, perched on a tree branch. This cat has a permanent grin and is the OG cryptic troll. He speaks in riddles, tells Alice everyone here is mad, like, we're all mad here. I'm mad, you're mad. She's like, how do you know I'm mad? He's basically, you must be, or you wouldn't be here. Not exactly comforting. She asks for directions to somewhere that makes sense. The cat says she can visit the March Hare or the Mad Hatter. Both are equally nonsensical. Then his body vanishes, leaving just the grin. That's peak nightmare fuel. Alice, at a crossroads, decides to visit the March Hare's place because, well, why not? She's got nowhere else to be. The cat vanishes and reappears in fragments, just to troll her further, giving vague hints about the Queen's croquet game and how everyone might lose their heads. Typical Wonderland gossip. So that's how Alice's day is going. In the space of half an hour, she's babysat a pig, sneezed in a pepper storm, and had existential convos with a grinning ghost cat. She's still hoping for that nice garden. Instead, she's heading for a tea party with some likely unhinged individuals. Wonderland's definitely an all-you-can-eat buffet of weird, but Alice is rolling with it, determined to see this through. Part 5. The Mad Tea Party. Alice arrives at a large table under a tree. The sign says it's the home of the March Hare, and seated there is the March Hare himself, the Mad Hatter, and a very sleepy dormouse snoozing between them. The table is crammed with tea things, but they're all bunched up at one end, yelling "no room" when Alice approaches. She's like, there's plenty of room, you weirdos, and sits anyway. This mad tea party is basically chaos. The Hatter and March Hare pelt Alice with riddles and nonsensical statements. The Hatter asks, why is a raven like a writing desk? Alice tries to figure it out, but it's a trick. There's no real answer. The March Hare offers her more tea, but none of the cups are clean, and they keep moving seats. The dormouse occasionally wakes to mumble half a story, then dozes off mid-sentence. It's like trying to have brunch with hyper-toddlers hopped up on sugar. Alice attempts to show manners but quickly gets fed up. The Hatter says his watch is broken because he tried to put butter in it. The March Hare insists it was the best butter, but there were crumbs. The concept of time is apparently messed up. The Hatter claims he and the March Hare had a quarrel with time, so now it's always 6 o'clock, meaning perpetual tea time. They just rotate around the table for fresh cups. What a life. The dormouse tries telling a story about 3 sisters in a treacle well, but it's nonsensical, and the Hatter and Hare interrupt constantly. The dormouse eventually falls asleep again. Alice, exasperated, calls them rude and gets up to leave. The last thing she hears is them deciding to stuff the dormouse into a teapot. Great bunch of folks, right? She wanders off, fuming about the worst tea party ever. She sees a door in a tree trunk, which leads into another hallway, similar to the first one she found. The little glass table is there, the tiny door to the garden is there. This time she's prepared. She's still got her mushroom pieces. She nibbles the right amounts, shrinks to the perfect size, and unlocks that door. Finally, she steps into the beautiful garden she's been eyeing since the start of her adventure. But guess what? That garden belongs to the Queen of Hearts, notorious for her explosive temper and obsession with beheading people. So while it's lovely, filled with bright flowers, trimmed hedges, and playing card gardeners, there's a tension in the air. Alice's next challenge: navigating a royal meltdown with some seriously unhinged monarchs. Part 6 of the Queen of Hearts and Croquet Chaos. Alice enters the garden and sees card soldiers, literally playing cards shaped like people, busily painting white roses red. Turns out they planted the wrong rose trees, and if the Queen finds out, it's off with their heads. So they're trying to cover their tracks. Alice offers to help, and then, trumpets blare. The King and Queen of Hearts arrive in a grand procession. The Queen is all about bossing everyone around with her famous catchphrase, "Off with their heads," for the slightest offense. The King seems overshadowed, always trying to pardon folks behind the Queen's back. Alice is unimpressed, thinking these royals are basically bullies. But she's cautious because the Queen is a literal tyrant. The Queen invites, or more like commands, Alice to join a croquet game. But this isn't your standard lawn party. Instead of mallets, they use live flamingos. Instead of balls, they use hedgehogs. And the hoops are soldier cards arching themselves. It's total pandemonium. The flamingos keep twisting their necks to look at the players. The hedgehogs scuttle away. Everyone's cheating, and the queen's screaming off with his head at random intervals. No one is actually beheaded yet, because the king quietly intervenes, but it's still a risk. In the midst of the game, the Cheshire Cat reappears, floating around with just his head visible. The queen flips out, demanding someone behead the cat. But how do you behead a floating head with no body? The king and the executioner argue about the logistics. Meanwhile, the cat's casually chatting with Alice about life. The Duchess shows up, apparently out of prison for pepper-related crimes, tries to be friendly, but the queen sees her and is like, off with her. The king stops her again. Alice quietly slips away while everyone's distracted by the cat fiasco. She's starting to see that Wonderland's legal system is basically a joke. She hopes to find a calmer spot. Instead, she stumbles upon the Mock Turtle and the Griffin, two creatures the queen said would show her some interesting stuff. Because sure, that's definitely going to be normal, right? Anyway, that's how the croquet match goes, unorganized, violent, and surreal. Alice manages not to lose her head, but she's no closer to leaving Wonderland. She just keeps meeting more bizarre characters. By now, she's half convinced that none of this is real, or maybe she's the only sane one in a mad world. Part 7. The Mock Turtle's Story and the Griffin's Dance. Under the Griffin's guidance, a mythical eagle-lion creature who's surprisingly chatty, Alice meets the Mock Turtle, a mopey turtleish being with a cow's head or something. Carol's text is famously weird about it. They hang on a rocky seashore. The Mock Turtle is super emo, constantly sighing and lamenting. The Griffin's like, he's always in tears for no reason. It's just his thing. The Mock Turtle claims he used to be a real turtle once, studied under a master in reeling and writhing, instead of reading and writing, and took classes like drawing, stretching, and fainting in coils. Alice tries to follow, but feels a migraine coming on. The puns are relentless, like lessons becomes lesson, so the lessons got shorter each day. The Griffin cracks up at every pun, while Alice's eyes glaze over. Then they demonstrate the famous lobster quadrille, a dance where sea creatures pair up with lobsters and throw them out to sea at intervals. The Mock Turtle and Griffin half-dance around Alice, singing about random crustaceans. It's bizarre but kinda catchy. At some point, they ask Alice to recite a poem called "'Tis the Voice of the Sluggard," but she again bumbles the lines into nonsense. They correct her, but nobody knows what's right in Wonderland. Everyone's speech is basically a pun war. Midway through this performance, a cry rings out, the trial's beginning. The Griffin grabs Alice's hand and drags her off, saying, "No time to waste, we gotta see the trial." The Mock Turtle is left behind, still moaning about something or other. So once again, Alice is hustled to a new scene, no closure on the weird dance. She has no clue who's on trial or why, but presumably it's another big fiasco with the Queen of Hearts screeching about beheadings. The Griffin implies it's worth watching. By now, Alice is used to zany episodes. This entire journey is basically one giant LOL random event after another. Next up, the Wonderland justice system, which is definitely 100% legit. Spoiler, it's not. Part 8. The Trial of the Knave of Hearts. Alice and the Griffin rush into a courtroom. The King of Hearts is the judge, wearing a big crown over his wig. The Queen of Hearts is also there, obviously. A jury of various Wonderland creatures is seated, scribbling nonsense on slates. The defendant? The Knave of Hearts, accused of stealing the Queen's tarts. Classic nursery rhyme scandal. The White Rabbit acts as a trumpeter and court official, reading out the charges in a squeaky voice. The king bumbles through the trial, mixing up procedure. The knave stands there, looking clueless. The Hatter is called as a witness, still with crumbs in his pocket from the tea party. He babbles about timed toast and how he can't stand the Queen's temper. The Queen glares, ready to shout off with his head at any second. The cook from the Duchess's house testifies next, but all she does is mention Pepper and how her pig baby vanished. Super helpful. Alice, initially watching from the sidelines, realizes she's been growing bigger again. She's nibbling bits of mushroom in her pocket but can't keep it consistent. The king notices her towering form and demands she leave. She refuses. No real reason, but she's fed up. Meanwhile, the white rabbit finds a mysterious letter that might be evidence. It's presumably written by the knave, but it doesn't mention tarts, just random poetry. The king interprets it in some twisted way to prove the knave's guilt. Finally, the queen shrieks, sentence first, verdict afterwards, which is obviously backward. Alice can't stand it. That's not how justice works. The queen roars, off with her head, but Alice has grown so large that she's not scared. She calls them all nothing but a pack of cards. At that insult, the entire deck rises into the air, then swoops down on her. Suddenly, everything goes into slow motion, cards flying at Alice's face. She screams, tries to swat them away, and Part 9. Waking up and final reflections. Just as the cards are about to smack her, Alice jolts awake. She's back on the riverbank with her sister. The leaves rustle overhead. No Wonderland in sight. The cards are just leaves drifting in the breeze. She's lying in her sister's lap, heart pounding. It was all a dream. Or was it? Alice tells her sister about the bizarre white rabbit, the caterpillar, the Cheshire cat, the mad tea party, and the insane Queen of Hearts. Her sister listens, half amused, half doubtful. Alice eventually runs off for tea, a normal tea hopefully, leaving her sister to daydream about Wonderland a little longer. In that moment, her sister sees glimpses of the strange cast of characters in her mind and hopes that Alice will keep some of that childlike imagination as she grows up. End of the story. Alice returns to everyday reality. But that sense of magic, of weird logic and talking creatures, lingers. The final vibe is that childhood imagination is wild and precious. Even if it's all a dream, it shaped Alice's perspective. She faced a chaotic world and kept her cool, mostly. She discovered that words can twist meaning, that size can shift your vantage point, and that authority figures aren't always right or rational. In the end, Alice's adventures in Wonderland is all about the playful possibilities of mind and language, the frustration of rules that make no sense, and the resilience of a curious spirit. Whether it was a dream or another dimension is up to you. But next time you see a rabbit with a pocket watch, maybe think twice before following, unless you're up for a seriously twisted tea party. That's it, from the rabbit hole to the Queen's court, with a cameo by a floating grin, Alice's trip was a nonsense extravaganza. She might still be normal afterward, but she got a taste of a place where reality is negotiable and puns are currency. And we, reading from the safety of our normal chairs, get to smile at the madness. After all, we're all mad here, at least a little. Wow, you navigated Wonderland like a true adventurer, dodging Mad Hatters and Queens of Hearts. High five for conquering this wild and wacky classic. Set your sails for Level 2. Book 1, Treasure Island, is coming in hot. Dive into a world of pirates, gold, and danger, where every step closer to the treasure leads to bigger thrills and even bigger risks. Also, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay in the loop for all our epic content. And guess what? A new fun retelling audiobook drops every single weekday.